In Galactic Civilizations 4, you can pretty much play any way you want, so if you want to play as a murderous deathbot or a peace-loving doggo, you can do just that. The custom civ creator lets you make just the civ you want for whatever playstyle you fancy, and if you want a bit of extra flavour by a professional writer or an artist, you can use the generate button, toss in a short prompt, and take your pick from some backstory and artwork created by an AI, trained on past games artwork, and then created by the artists themselves. How's that for ethics? So let's have a play around and make some fun builds for you to try out in game. And thank you to Stardock for sponsoring this video. First up, we of course are starting with killer deathbots. Any good build video has to start with some kind of killer bot. I think it's just the rules. First step of that build is of course their biology, which is going to of course be synthetic. Deathbots don't need food to survive and aren't too picky about where they live, so can grow basically anywhere without much complaint. For a warmongering civ, we're of course going with totalitarianism. While you could make the argument for nihilism, the culture tree in game works a lot better here, and besides, you want all members of the civ following the orders of its leader to ensure the most efficient path forward to galactic domination. If you want to have the AI use this civ, then you'll want to set their behaviours as merciless and aggressive. They're here to start wars and only know one way to finish them, and it ain't through shaking hands. For civ abilities, we're going with cybernetic and warriors. Cybernetic will allow us to access powerful tech to enhance our population to create truly perfect beings, engineered specifically for war. And warriors, make some better warriors. What more is there to say? 10% less damage taken and 10% more damage dealt. We're going to use the Yor as our citizens. This allows us to ignore food and instead manufacture new citizens, so focusing on incredibly high manufacturing is the way to go, with the added bonus of no approval loss for high population or pollution. For the commander ships, while there are a large number of excellent options for war, I went with fleet ships. These will not only be excellent additions to any fleet because of their military power, but they'll also provide bonuses to XP and other stats to all ships in the fleet to ensure you're heading into battle with the best setup possible. Our final gameplay decision is for civilian traits, and I went with 2 points in productive and veteran, 1 point into fast, and -2 points into likable. Since we're focused on warring with everyone, the diplomacy debuff is fine since we don't really want to make any friends anyway. The extra productivity will allow us to build up planets, population, and ships at a breakneck pace to push us forward. Veteran will allow us to train up our fleets in no time flat, and fast will let us move our ships around just a little bit more each turn to give us an edge during invasion. Everything else here is set dressing, so let's grab some robotic looking ships and sort out some backstory and artwork. Let's say they're a civilization of advanced robots which are hellbent on eliminating all traces of organic life from the galaxy. Boom, we have a backstory, boom, we have some spooky looking artwork, and we're all set. With this build, you'll be set to start warring pretty much whenever you want. You can get a strong start by colonizing a lot of planets regardless of the type, and make the most of them without having to worry much about approval. Sure, pop growth is slow until you get some resources on the go, but you'll have more than enough to get you started and expand fast, leaving time later to build up your population. You can pretty much ignore diplomacy since we all know that only one fate is in store for everyone that opposes you, and focus on building up planets and fleets to prepare for domination. Once you're ready, pick a target and funnel all of your resources into taking them down, before moving on to the next target, and keep repeating one after the other until none are left but you. For sure, a pretty straightforward build to make use of, since you just fight everything and spam building combat and invasion ships, but if you want to get lots of practice in warfare, there's nothing better than a civ that focuses on just that. Now for something the complete opposite of warmonger and death robots, how's about some peace-loving diplomatic doggos? Though in my experience they only crave destruction and cheese. Right off the bat, these are carbon-based doggos just like you'd find on Earth. They love water and food and living in paradise-like planets. Their culture is focused around pacifism and making as many friends as they can without a need for enemies and hostility. If the AI is taking the driver's seat, then you want them to be peaceful and diplomatic. This civ is totally against war, and if it can help it, really does just want to make some galactic friendos. For the civilization abilities, we're going with empathy and loyal. Empathy gives us a bonus to diplomacy and persuasion, whilst also reducing crime, keeping things peaceful both in and out of your civ, but also letting us make the most of favourable deals to get what we need from our allies. Loyal keeps our leaders on our side and lets us pick them up for cheaper, which is super useful for maintaining all of our diplomatic relationships. This will also help us gain tons of culture points to work through our pacifism tree and align our civ more with that ideology. Our citizens are of course going to be canine, they have low expectations and love sharing planets with other species, so are a perfect fit for a diplomatic focus. For traits, we're going with a simple 2 points into likable for extra diplomacy buffs, and 1 point into courageous to make them a little bit harder to invade should someone take a disliking to us. Lastly, we're taking observation ships, allowing us to explore the galaxy to the best of our abilities. Tossing a little prompt about sentient friendly dogs, and we've got this adorable image and logo. As a complete 180 from the last build, with this one you want to unlock the universal translator as soon as you meet anyone and start building up friendships from the early game. You're aiming to get everyone on side for plenty of trading in both deals and freight ships to maximise income and productivity for everyone. Of course, there will be those that are cat people instead, and in these unfortunate situations you'll have to rely on your strength and that of your allies to stay in the game, so don't be afraid to build up a defensive military just in case. With this build, you can really go whatever direction you want. If you want to make all the money in the galaxy or focus on science or influence, it really is up to you since being friends with others doesn't really stop you from doing anything else. Follow your dreams, make lots of friends, nothing else to say but that. Our next build takes us beneath the surface on a planet of water to our underwater scientists. Of course, we're talking about an aquatic civilization, so that means we love oceanic worlds and can build the very best colonies on them, as well as having access to a number of exclusive aquatic technologies. And as I said, they're scientists, so of course their main ideology is progressivism. This will allow them to focus on innovation to push their civ ahead through technology and new thought. For AI behaviors, we're of course going with scientific because, obviously, and pragmatic to keep them acting in the most logical way possible for the situation in front of them. For their civ abilities, I went with intuitive and inspired. Intuitive lets us start with access to a number of techs before anyone else, and a free culture trait to get a head start in our journey towards progress. Inspired allows us to recruit more leaders at a much cheaper price to make the most of any open positions. For our pops, I'm going with Manti, who love aquatic worlds and gain a huge approval boost when living on them, so find as many as you can and get them colonized. For traits, we're going with 2 into clever for faster research and 1 into fast for a little bit of an improvement to exploration. Finally, we're of course taking the science ships to maximize that bad boy as much as possible. And you know what, these frogs aren't quite underwater enough for me, so let's get some backstory and something better fitting. Perfect, the Oceanic Seekers, and they're a civ of sentient jellyfish. Excellent. Pretty self-explanatory how to make the most of this one. Expand rapidly, then build up planets focusing on science as much as possible to blaze through the tech tree at record speed. This sounds pretty dull, but remember the tech tree gives you access to all manner of new shiny things, like better warships, more advanced planets, and much, much more. So don't be afraid to stick your fingers in a few more pies while you're focusing on science. You can go straight for that science victory if you want, or simply use the technological advantage to wipe out your enemies and bolster your allies. When the secrets of the galaxy reveal themselves to you, the world really is your oyster. And finally, we have perhaps the most terrifying civ we've seen so far, the synthetic influencers. Don't be fooled by their alluring appearance, these are the most soulless of civs you could ever happen across in Dark Alley. They were engineered by a corporation to be the perfect influencers to sell mobile games, but became so influential they took over the company and eventually planet. Now they seek to spread their influence on a galactic scale until every single person in the universe has signed up for 103 megabucks by using their affiliate link. Of course, this is another synthetic civ, so no food required, but if you want more pops, you'll need to build them yourself. Their beliefs are rooted in the illusion of free speech and individualism, allowing their population to believe they can be whoever they want to be, when in reality, each individual becomes a clone of those that they watch. As for AI behaviors, greedy and opportunistic. They'll never turn down an easy way to make a buck, and if they spot a gap in the market or a civ on the brink of collapse, they won't hesitate to give things a little push and eagerly await to pick up the pieces. For the civ abilities, they have telepathy and resourceful. What better way to transfer their influence over the population than by hijacking their literal brainwaves to give whatever orders you like? And some extra resources to give them a head start is never a bad thing. Their population, aside from robots, is made up of the draft. These are a race focused on one thing only, wealth. If the civ coffers are full, then they're happy, and with this many brand deals coming your way, you'll struggle to be poor. Their civ traits are of course going to be 1 point into rich for just a little more bonus income, and influential for much improved influence growth to spread your words far and wide. Lastly, they're of course going to be using influence ships to help them spread the good word even further. This is another one which is fairly straightforward to play as. Expand fast and make your planets as influential as possible to take over the galaxy through force without ever having to fire a shot. If you can spread your influence far enough, you can absorb planets and even entire civilizations, and there's nothing that they can do but watch. Sure, they can declare war, but how's that going to look when you make a Gitgok, that's Galactic TikTok, and cancel them for being warmongers? Truly, there isn't much that can be done when you have this much money and influence. And that reminds me, one last thank you to Stardock for sponsoring this video, really appreciate it. But that's all the builds I have for you today in Galactic Civilizations 4. Let me know any fun builds that you're playing with in the comments below, like, subscribe, and if you want more Galactic Civilizations 4 content, and then check out this video here to see my complete beginner's guide.